Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Ron, and today we're going to be talking about Darktide and my first impressions of each of the classes. Now keep in mind this is going to be very much first impressions of the classes. I have not gotten even to level 10 with any of these classes, so I have not gotten any of the custom weapons for them. Outside of Ogryn, because he kind of has custom weapons compared to everybody else, sort of. First up, I tried playing as the Veteran Ranger. Veteran Sharpshooter. I'm going to be calling it the Veteran Ranger pretty often because I'm just going to be so used to the Vermintide class that Barden has, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. This class started out with a shovel as their primary weapon, or I guess as their melee weapon, and a lasgun as their secondary weapon. And these ones were okay. So far, I've kind of felt the Veteran Sharpshooter has been okay overall. They do have some cool passives, it seems like, so if you level them up more, you get to use your guns a little bit more often, which I'm a fan of. The gunplay in this game is quite good. I do like it a lot. Melee combat is very similar to what it is in Vermintide 2, so if you've played that game or the first Vermintide game, you're probably going to be pretty familiar with the melee combat and sort of how it works, which isn't too surprising since Fat Shark developed both of these and, made both of them. Kind of makes sense to already put in a functional melee system into the game. And Vermintide's melee system is really good. So there's a little bit of annoyance with the enemies having more guns overall. It feels similar to like when they put in the Beastman Archers in Vermintide 2, where you just kind of get hit out of nowhere and can be a little bit frustrating, but for the most part I think it's fine because you do have more shots, you can fire back easier. Your guns do seem to have pretty decent weight to them. Anyway, back to the Veteran. Veteran has kind of a basic ability for their ultimate where you can just clear off unique targets faster. I do like that though, where it marks them out, makes it easier to hit them, and certain weapons can certainly tear through them really quick. They are a bit squishy overall, but that's kind of to be expected from the range class. I wasn't expecting them to be really tanky or anything. Grenade is really basic from them. You just chuck out a grenade and it blows up. Nothing super special there, but it is nice. It does do high damage to most enemies, it seems like. And then the weapons I gotta try. Again, I tried out the shovel. Shovel felt pretty good. Actually felt pretty decent for clearing up enemies. Lasgun felt okay. It was one of the few weapons that I could ADS. And at least I never ran out of ammo with the weapon, so that's kind of nice. But its slow rate of fire didn't feel way great to me, so I don't know how often I'll be using this. Again, these are very first impressions, so I'm sure as weapons scale up, I will try them all out more, see how they work, but first impressions were not way great for the lasgun. Other guns I tried were the full auto assault rifle, the one that I could ADS, which felt really good. There was another one that had a higher rate of fire, but I could only hip fire. It also had a larger magazine. That one also felt surprisingly good. I didn't mind that I couldn't ADS with it most of the time, because most of the fights in this game don't seem to be at super long range. It was annoying occasionally when there was snipers and stuff, and I just kind of had to spray at them. But other than that, it felt great. See, I tried the submachine gun. I actually tried the submachine gun on multiple classes, and it felt fine too. Great at close and medium range, not so good at longer ranges. I don't even know what the difference is between the hip fire and the ADS fire. They both felt basically the same to me. Maybe the ADS fire is a little bit more accurate, but couldn't tell you. After that, I switched over to Ogryn, and Ogryn felt like probably the most unique class to this game, especially since I came from Vermintide 2, which a lot of these classes feel very similar to the classes in Vermintide 2. Ogryn does not really feel like most of them. If any, he probably feels closest to Kruber's Foot Knight, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. That was always a fun class to play. His charge is great. His grenade is by far my favorite, even if it is kind of a meme. Although people said it was a meme, but it hits really hard. You can one-shot basically any specials and take a big chunk out of bosses, as well as stagger anything that you hit with it. And it looks like it has some synergies later on when you get your talents. So that's pretty nice. His weapons also felt the most distinct. Starting out with a shotgun, that felt pretty good. Felt similar to the blunderbuss in Vermintide, which was one of my favorite ranged weapons anyway. His other gun, I don't remember what it was called. I tried it out, and I think it was a Ripper. Maybe it was a Ripper gun. That one felt pretty good too. That one felt better for just continuous fire compared to the shotgun. The shotgun felt really good for burst fire though. Those were the only two guns that I tried, but I do know he gets like a grenade launcher and a couple other ones that I'm looking forward to. For melee weapons, basically all of his melee weapons felt really good. The club felt amazing at basically everything, and I thought it was really funny that you just backhand people with your special attack. That was one of my favorites, especially with the little slap sound effect that it gives with you. I really enjoyed that. His knives felt pretty good. Lots of cleave, lots of stabbing, and him just having really long reach is pretty nice overall. All of his power attacks felt really good too, especially with the extra stagger he has. You can just batter around even the special enemies, making even like the elites not that big of a deal. Shovel also felt pretty good. and I think that was all the melee weapons. I think it was just club, shovel, and the 2 knives that I tried with him. All of them felt pretty solid. All of them felt like they had their own uses. I think I liked the club the best out of the melee weapons because it just kind of felt like it did everything and it just really swatted people away. Again, it also had that backhand. Ogryn was like 2 thumbs up. Really liked him. His passives were also really good. I liked all the passives they gave him. I'm not sure how great he's going to be later on in the higher difficulties because I've only really played the 2nd and 3rd difficulty. And he seems really good on those difficulties, but he's such a big target that it seems like it's going to be easy to get hit by either special enemies inadvertently, you know, them charging after somebody else and hitting you, or you're just going to be such a big bullet sponge that if you're the last one standing, which happened to me quite often, it's really difficult to take cover and just be firing back at ranged enemies. I'm sure there's some solutions to that, and if your team is staying alive, it's probably not that big of a deal, but it was something that I noticed with him. Still, he seemed super fun, though. After that, I tried Zealot. Zealot felt just like the Zealot from Vermintide, so I was very familiar with that. That was one of my favorite classes for Victor anyway. Feels really good. His charge is nice. You can immediately get into melee range and do really high damage. Melee felt great. The axes that he had, especially the first axe, was really good. Heavy attacks were amazing on that with just all overhead swings towards everything. Made it really easy to take out any sort of the elites or monsters. The other axe I tried wasn't nearly as good. It had kind of a weirder pattern, especially with special attack where you spin it around and smack upward. It just felt odd, and I was probably never going to use that attack. And then the swords felt really good. One of them felt just like the rapier from Vermintide. The other one felt more like a standard sword. Both of them were good overall. The grenade was pretty good too. The stun grenade felt really useful against crowds, and the ability to get your toughness back felt great with them. So Zealot was probably the one that I had the most fun with, besides maybe Ogryn, and felt probably the most confident with because I could just constantly be in melee range, constantly be attacking, and even when I was using ranged options, they still felt pretty good. They started out with a submachine gun, which was fine. I changed it up to the assault rifles, which felt even better. And basically I'd be fighting at medium to close range the entire time because I could just get to the medium and close range so fast. So they felt probably the most natural for me to be playing since, again, I had played Vermintide and it feels very similar to the Zealot in Vermintide. Not sure what their unique weapons are. I'm sure there's going to be more interesting ones as it goes on, so I'm looking forward to that, as well as their perk seems pretty good. Then the last class I played, which was just the other day, was Psyker, and Psyker felt by far the strangest out of the classes. They felt pretty good. If you played Vermintide, I'm going to keep bringing up Vermintide because, again, it's very similar to this game. If you've played Sienna, they feel fairly similar to Sienna. It seems even more so with some of their other weapons that they unlock that are class-specific that I've seen people use, where it just straight up looks like some of the staffs that you see in Vermintide, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It does have some pretty cool abilities and some pretty cool effects to it. The special ability was pretty nice. You just knock everything back. Very useful for basically everything. It doesn't seem to work that well against bosses, and I'm not sure if you just, as you level up, that's going to get better, or if it's just mainly made for crowd control. Grenade felt really strange, and it has an overheat mechanic similar to some of the things in Vermintide, like Barton's flamethrower guns, whether that be the pistol or the flamethrower, and Sienna staffs, so you can blow yourself up with them. You got to be careful with that. I wasn't aware of that. I thought I was charging my power up to 100% and then was going to do really high damage. I used it once and blew myself up immediately, and then I think I blew myself up again later in that same match with a barrel, so that didn't work out way great. But overall, fairly fun to use. And the grenade itself is using psychic power on one particular enemy. You can actually target an enemy and then get behind cover and then continue to do it. So it's really nice for picking off elites or just dealing high chunks to bigger enemies. I find that that's where it really excels at. Weapons were pretty decent. I actually don't remember what they started out with, but I did try the knife on them, which felt pretty good. You can attack really fast with it. It has long dodge range. That's pretty nice. The saber actually felt really good on it too. The saber felt very similar to the rapier in Vermintide, and that was one of my favorite weapons. Oh, they started out with a lasgun pistol too, which felt way better than the rifle for some reason. Maybe it's just because I could spam fire it much quicker, and I could actually ADS with it, which was nice. That gun actually felt pretty good overall. I did switch it out for some other ones. I tried out a submachine gun with them, which felt fine, and I tried out a 3-round burst rifle with them, which I believe was called like a headhunter auto gun. I could be wrong about the names. but that one felt pretty decent too, which I'm not usually the biggest fan of burst guns in general. Usually I want them to either be full auto or semi-auto, but this one had at least a chugging burst fire, so it was pretty easy to keep it on target, and it did seem to hit really hard for its, low rate of fire. That was perfectly fine. Either I want a burst gun that does something like that, or I want a burst gun that's just really high rate of fire and basically no recoil to it. Those are about the two ways that I enjoy burst guns, and this was one of them. So first impressions of all the classes in Darktide, I think I like all of them. Favorites were definitely Ogryn and Zealot. They felt the most natural to me, and I'm really a big fan of melee combat in these type of games, so they definitely help with that. The other classes still felt fine. They didn't feel necessarily underpowered or overpowered, at least baseline. Again, this might change as I level up and try them out more and more, because maybe somebody has crazy stuff, and again, I wasn't trying on really high difficulties, so we'll see what things are really necessary for the higher difficulties. I have a feeling something like Zealot is going to be naturally good all the way across, because they replenish things like their toughness, which just seems like some sort of armor gating, which is going to be probably pretty strong, because it usually is pretty strong in most games, as well as more damage when you're injured, which is great. It might help you hit certain breakpoints, and the charge just made it so getting into melee range was really easy to keep that toughness up. So I have a feeling, at least right away, since I do have some experience with Vermintide trying on the higher difficulties, usually playing on Legend, occasionally playing on Cataclysm, I think that Zealot is probably going to be the most performing out of the ones, but that's solely speculation. I could be completely wrong. Maybe there's something that makes one of the other classes even more strong overall. Tell me your thoughts on Darktide if you've gotten to try it, and if you're looking forward to it. So far, I've had a lot of fun with it. It has had some problems, though. I will say that. The game itself has had some problems. Bad optimization. Hopefully it gets optimized better. I have a pretty high-end rig, which can run it quite well, but even I was running into some stuttering and some issues throughout. There was also a lot of crashes that people had. I only had a few crashes throughout the entire game. Usually it was actually the servers crashing, not actually the game itself crashing, or my computer just bug splatting or something. So hopefully that gets ironed out when the final product comes out. Otherwise that's going to be really annoying, and it's probably going to turn a lot of people off, so hopefully that gets fixed first. And then you can worry about balancing and updates and stuff like that later on. Just get the game working first. I would say that's the biggest priority for the developers. Get the game working first for as many people as possible. Get as much of the bugs ironed out as possible so that people can actually play the game. And then worry about all the potential like class and weapon and everything else fixes throughout, or updates and balancing. I'm looking forward to the game. I hope you guys are. Thanks for watching this. I really do appreciate it. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.